100 million plus hits on YouTube. Astonishing viewing figures for the emotive documentary about the blood-stained Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony. He's still at large. A Congolese rebel leader, Thomas Lubanga, is not. He's been found guilty of using child soldiers and is being held at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. He'll be sentenced later. Andrew Harding has over the years reported extensively on the activities of both men and reflects now on the significance of these latest developments.
I was hiding under a bed in a priest's house in the middle of a town called Bunia. It was 2003 and Bunia, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, was at the heart of a particularly vicious ethnic conflict. There were reports of cannibalism in the countryside, rival militia gangs fighting for control of the nearby gold mines, machete victims packed head to toe in the hospital, and at that precise moment, the sound of heavy gunfire on three sides of the house. The priest, a jovial Belgian called Father Joe, had seen it all before. As the bullets started to fizzle through the trees overhead, he lit another cigarette and went out in the garden for a stroll. "Just kids," he said, serenely. And he was right. Bunia was being overrun yet again by child soldiers. For months we'd seen their blank, drugged eyes crowd round our car at roadblocks, weapons brandished like toys. Many of the kids reported, if that's the right word, to a warlord named Thomas Lubanga. Smooth and aloof, the besooted Mr. Lubanga sought to portray himself as a politician. When I went to see him at his fortified compound, his chief of protocol spoke in hushed terms about the president's schedule, and then tried to stop us filming the bullet holes in the walls. 9 years later, and Mr. Lubanga has just earned the uncomfortable honour of being the first person to be convicted by the International Criminal Court. He sat impassively as the verdict was read out in The Hague, still aloof, but now facing the prospect of decades in jail. Back in 2003, it was French troops who ended the fighting in Bunia. Now, a foreign court is finally administering justice. Both events are a reminder that outside intervention can work in Africa, however imperfectly. But they also underline the failures of African leadership, how much better it would have been for everyone if the Congolese army had been able to stop the bloodshed and the Congolese justice system had put Mr. Lubanga and many more like him on trial. Perhaps that day will come. These are fickle, complicated times for Africa. The continent is changing fast, mostly for the better. Wars are ending, even in Congo. Economies are booming. Democracy, or something like it, is spreading along with Chinese investment. There are still conflicts here, and failed states, and a persistent need for outside help. But many in Africa are seeking to renegotiate the terms of their relationship with the West. If you are the parent of a teenager, there's a fair chance he or she has come home from school in the past few days, breathless with outrage about a Ugandan killer named Joseph Kony. For the past 2 decades, Mr. Kony has run what amounts to a terrorist cult, the Lord's Resistance Army. The LRA are responsible for rape, torture, murder, and the abduction of thousands of children. A group of American activists made a film about Mr. Kony, put it on the internet, and more than 100 million people have now clicked on it. In 2004, I spent a lot of time in northern Uganda tracking Kony's LRA and meeting their victims. I can still picture the dogs skipping off into the bush with their spoils at the scene of a massacre, 200 villagers hacked to pieces, their huts burned. A 13-year-old boy called Innocent had lost his entire family. We took him to a local orphanage in a town called Lira. He stayed there for a year or so, but eventually ran away, determined to become a truck driver. Today, Lira is peaceful. In fact, Joseph Kony's forces have not been active inside Uganda at all for 6 years. The armies of several neighbouring states are now cooperating to try to finish off what's left of the LRA. Just a few hundred fighters now. In Uganda, former child soldiers are being rehabilitated, communities reconciled. Progress. The American internet film is not dishonest, but it shows none of this. It's outdated and simplistic, and many here find it deeply patronising. It perpetuates the idea that Africans are helpless victims waiting for American college students to ride to their rescue. When the film was given a public screening in Lira this week, locals reacted with anger and disdain. I'm still in touch with the orphanage where we left Innocent. The man in charge emailed to say, we're at peace now. The film has brought back unwelcome memories. We are not happy with it. Help us by all means, he implied, but listen to us first.